We all, I'm sure, from our childhood, have that one meal that, you know, makes you feel like you're back to your youth again and back at grandma's house for supper. Did you have one of those? Any meal at your grandmother's house?
I like pot roast at grandma's house.
Yeah.
Or gravy train, which was hamburger gravy over mashed potatoes.
You see, mine goes to a little bit of what we're having for supper tonight. And what it is it's just a thin steak, and it's cooked in a brown gravy and then served over bread and butter, rice, potatoes, whatever you want to put it on. But, that's the way I sort of remember it when we would have it, is Dad would always put it on his bread and butter. Us kids, because we were younger, we just ate the steak and gravy. We didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're doing. What we got here is some of these thin, almost like minute steaks. And we got this at Aldi's.
We like the ones at Aldi's. They're really better than the minute steaks. They taste like steak.
Well, and nothing against the minute steak companies, but you can tell looking at this is real meat.
Yes.
Yeah. Whereas those freezer steakums are like,
they're thin.
Processed. And you can tell they're processed. So in here I just put a pack of thin steaks, and I'm just gonna brown it up a little bit. Yeah, it wasn't like an all the time thing, but like once in a while she would do this, and you got a meal when you went to grandma's on Sundays. You had not only your main portion, sometimes she would make a vinegar soup or a tomato-y based soup with homemade noodles and that in it. And there was always like a relish tray and all that stuff. So we're just gonna brown this up. Come on back. All right, welcome back. Our steaks, hence why they are called minute steaks, have gone down nice and brown. And now what I'm going to do is I'm throwing a little bit more olive oil into the frying pan. And I'm going to just saute up a little bit of onion here. Now, I don't remember Grandma putting onion in her steak and gravy. But I'm just thinking, when you have steaks and you have them either in a restaurant or whatever, come sometimes with a nice caramelized onion. So that's what I'm going to do, is I'm just going to caramelize these up a little bit before we get our gravy going. Yeah, both my grandmas were good cooks. Mom cooked only if she had to. Dad did a lot of it. I know, your mom, from everything I've heard, your mom was like a real good cook. And we've even done a couple of her recipes on the channel here.
Yeah.
She
was a good cook. Her grandmother that raised her was a good cook. My dad's mother, I've only ever seen her cook once my whole life. She went out to eat all the time, and she would make ham and lima beans, and that was all I ever knew that she made. And poke. Well, poke. She made poke. And for those of you who don't know, it's a weed that we in rural Ohio eat.
Not all of us. I've never seen it. I've never had
It's
it.
nasty.
Of course, I'm a transplant here, so.
So if you know what pokeweed is, comment below. I want to see how many people know.
If you don't know but want to know, please also comment below, because again, some of us are not originally from this state, and I have no
I remember
idea
her
what the
sending
heck
me in the
this
woods
stuff
with a
looks like.
little sickle thing to chop her down her pokeweed.
All right, so our onions are getting nice and soft and cooked.
And they smell.
I'm going to throw in 4 tablespoons of butter. Seriously, the cholesterol level just went up. And then with that, I'm going to set this over. Well, no, I'm just going to put
Was that
this
beef
down.
broth?
What this is this is 2 tablespoons of beef bouillon and 2 cups of water.
So you use the powdered beef.
Oh, good God, yeah.
Isn't that much better than them cubes?
It is. I mean, okay, sometimes the cubes maybe made it a little bit easier because, yeah, 2 cups of water, you just threw in 2 cubes. They didn't always dissolve.
They didn't, and the paper, getting the paper off was like a chore.
Getting the paper off was a challenge. I'm just now adding some salt. Not too much because there's going to be some with our bouillon. And some pepper. But the other thing about them cubes is if the water wasn't hot enough, they didn't dissolve. Or if the cubes had been like up in your cabinet and you didn't think about them until like 7 years later down the road.
Yeah.
When you realize they were there and then you go to use them. And again, because they had sat for so long, they don't dissolve. They're just...
Yep.
Yeah. The powdered stuff, a lot easier and a lot better to use.
I think it tastes more beefy.
Yeah. Now I'm adding a little bit of garlic powder and a little bit of onion powder. You know, the onions in there aren't enough to... You better be sharing this meal with someone you love if you do this, because seriously, with the onions, and then you're adding onion powder and garlic powder to it, yeah, this isn't going to be pretty. So once we have this to a boil, make sure I got all my butter in there melting. I am going to add a thickener, which is nothing more, let's use this part here, than 2 tablespoons of water and 2 tablespoons of cornstarch.
Now, my grandma would say she's making a paste.
Well, and most times when I do a gravy, that's what I will do, is I will add like flour to my butter and then add equal amounts of flour to equal amounts of butter and that. And this is just some au jus mix, just to keep our gravy on the brown side. Plus, it will give it one heck of a good taste. But sometimes when you're doing them with flour,
Gets lumpy.
well, it gets lumpy, and if you don't cook it and stir it in just right, you're going to get that flour taste in your gravy.
Cornstarch was used a lot by my grandmother. It was cooking and it was medicinal. Like if you had a rash or something, she put cornstarch on you.
Yeah. So, all right. With that boiling, I am going to add the steak back in here. And we're gonna let it simmer and get
that flavor.
Get nice and thick. So turn this down to simmer here.
Now, about how long do you simmer?
I'm gonna say probably about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Check on it. If it's still not thick enough for you, you can always add more liquid if you need to. But if it's not thick enough for you, add a little bit more cornstarch. The only problem is sometimes when you're cooking, it doesn't thicken real fast. And then you've added a little bit more, and you wind up with you wind up with glue. So my thing is, check it in 5 minutes after it's sat and simmered. If it's not thick enough, stir up a little bit. Add about a teaspoon, maybe. Not a whole tablespoon, but about a teaspoon of cornstarch.
Smelling good, I know.
And
that.
let it just cook a little bit, 5 more minutes longer. But come on back, and we're gonna see how this turns out. All right, the second part of our meal is going here. Just gonna have some French fries with these. I mean, if you're gonna have gravy, you gotta have French fries. Granted, it's mostly gonna be going on our bread and butter, but
fries with gravy.
you know, gravy just still runs off of things. It doesn't stay on one.
Well, that's a here thing. Gravy always goes on fries.
But I mean, it's not very thick. It's not paste, thank God. But
Looks good to me. Smells good.
just gonna give it a little bit of a stir here. It does look pretty good. And again, that smell is what I was hoping would come with these onions. Like I said, I don't remember Grandma putting them in her steak and gravy, but when you're cooking that steak and you smell those onions coming up, it just... Why would you go out to eat anywhere when you can do this at home?
I don't know why people go out to eat at all.
I have my opinions, but
Well, I work food service, so I've seen enough to know that it isn't what you think it is.
you know. Now we just gotta wait for the French fries to ding here. So come on back, we're gonna plate this up. All right, fries are done. We're gonna just take a nice serving spoon of that steak and gravy. Put maybe a little bit of the juice just across the fries a little bit. And not the end of this yet, but another thing. Now, I don't remember if Linda did or not. I know when Grandma did these, I'd put Heinz 57 on mine. Dad always put A1. But Dad would put A1 on his. And come on back, we're going to try this out. Now, okay, let's give this a taste.
Very good. Amazing.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So give this a try. We're going to be doing some, that's al fresco, in the living room eating. We're not going to be sitting at the table. So have a great night. Get out there. Enjoy life. We'll see you in the next video.